Hello. So this is for anyone who happened to have been absent from class or did not attend my Zoom for like ROA kids. That way you guys can have the same lesson that everyone who did see me got. This particular lesson, we're going to do an introduction to various areas here related to Germany. Again, still our main area, our main spot here related to the German language, so we have a lot of culture that we can focus on here. Moving right along then. So where is Germany in the world? So if we look at our world map, and we can already see our little arrow to where it is, and it's right in the center of Europe, honestly. If I were to choose a color right here, and we see it right in here. So this is where Europe is, kind of more right in here, honestly. And so you see that's kind of the center focus here of Europe is Germany. If we were to say, here we are in America, we took an airplane across the ocean here, we would also be able to get to Germany. So Germany is, obvious, as I already mentioned, right, a country in Europe, and the capital city, which we might remember from our video last week, is Berlin. Berlin is right here in this little bluish area, right in kind of like the top right-hand corner here. This is Berlin, and this is the capital. Germany has 81 million people living within that country, and is the 7th most visited country in the world. So obviously it's pretty popular, right? Popular enough that we're getting quite a lot of visitors. My best friend from pretty much 5th grade on, elementary, her husband is in the military, and right now they're doing their some time abroad, I guess, while he's serving. And so right now they also live in Germany. So obviously we also send our own people there quite often, so hey. And she sends many pictures. It's a very lovely place, honestly. So let's keep on moving along here. So what does Germany look like? So we have various things, right? Just like any country, they have many, many different types of places, right? We get that beautiful mountain-esque kind of nature-y vibe here, right? They have lots and lots of things to enjoy out in nature. We see here, right, the city of Berlin, which also, if we remember from the video, right, they've been revamping and remodeling and making it like the place to see when you visit Germany for many, many years now. So it is top tier with anything you can think of to visit, and the architecture is beautiful. But not everything is a big city, right? We also have our villages, right, just kind of the day-to-day towns that you would see. And then it's also known for the Black Forest. So again, kind of that nature-y scene. We got this balance. So let's look at some traditional clothing, right? So this is obviously not what every person in Germany wears, right? Just like we kind of have traditional clothes in the US, but obviously fashion has evolved over the years. But if we do look into the past, right, we have what is a dirndl, forgive my pronunciation there, which is that blouse skirt kind of apron combination. We saw that the waitresses were wearing something similar to that during Oktoberfest, who were serving people at the festival there. And then lederhosen, which is the leather breeches for men. So you notice in that picture, the guy is wearing some shorts. They're made of leather, right? That is the lederhosen. Lederhosen? We're going to go with that. Obviously, hopefully we should definitely know this point in this far into our German unit, that the main language here of Germany is German, and some various phrases which actually we've all learned. So you should know all of these, right? Guten Tag, which is more like good day, so it's a general hello. Bitte, danke, auf Wiedersehen, right? If you don't know those, I'd be studying your language before the test. Let's look at food, right? Everyone loves food, right? I just had lunch. Maybe you're hungry. Maybe you just ate. So let's look at the food of Germany. So obviously a big one here is sausage, right? Germany is really known for sausage and all various different kinds of sausage. We remember our word, one of our cognate words, right? Frankfurter, which is type of sausage. We saw in the video they had the Weisswurst, which was another type of sausage, right? So many types of sausage. And we have sauerkraut, which was one of our cognate words, right? It's that cabbage that's kind of been vinegared. The spargel. I didn't know they gave it its own word, but it's pretty much just white asparagus. Hopefully we know what an asparagus is. It's normally green. Christmas stollen, which is a cake-like bread with candied orange peel and dried fruit. Almost reminds me of fruitcake a little bit, but probably tastes way better than fruitcake, honestly. Most meals in general, right, you're going to have some kind of protein, that meat or fish, right? Potatoes or bread. Lots of vegetables, so vegetable soup, carrot, turnip, spinach, peas, beans, not bees, don't eat a bee. Broccoli or cabbage. As we can see, right, sauerkraut is vinegared cabbage, so hey, there you go. And we see an average German, right, just one person on average eats 134 pounds of meat a year. That is crazy. I wonder how that compares to the United States. How much meat do we eat in an average year? Someone should look that up and tell me. Besides that, here's a little trivia question for you guys. So which of these desserts was made in Germany? So the first that we have is called the Black Forest cake, which is chocolate cake with whipped cream and cherries. And then we have the German chocolate cake with caramel, coconut, and pecans. I'll give you a second. Pause, think about it, make your decision. Have you decided? I hope so. The answer is the Black Forest cake. This was made in Germany, or has been made in Germany since around 1915. Whereas the German cake, on the opposite hand, was 1852. An American chocolate maker named Sam German invented this cake, and it was named after him. So it's not from Germany. So the German chocolate cake comes from his last name versus the Black Forest cake. If you remember those pictures we saw at the beginning of this PowerPoint, right? The Black Forest is a famous forest within Germany. So that's how we kind of get that connection with Black Forest cake to Germany itself. Continuing on that food trend, let's think about pretzels for a moment. So where did pretzels come from? So obviously, hopefully, a pretzel is a type of baked dough shaped into a knot. Pretzels were invented by German or Italian monks in the early Middle Ages as a reward to children who learn their prayers. The knot shape is supposed to look like arms crossing the chest in prayer. So that's pretty interesting. Can you imagine getting a pretzel as a treat nowadays, right? Then again, right? Every time I go to like the mall or like Walmart or something, right? They always have the little pretzel shop. Tempting. Let's see, the earliest, one second. Well, that was a sucky time for an announcement to happen overhead. Coming back to it, the earliest known pretzel or painting of a pretzel was 1190 AD. So that's a really long time ago, right? We can see, let me bring up the little marker pen here. Right here in the painting, we see that pretzel. And compared to pretzel nowadays, it does look a little bit more like, you know, say the arms crossing over, you know, the kids crossing their arms or something. Like it's supposed to be. Either way. What are some interesting things I'd see in Germany, or you would see, or anyone who went to visit? So one of the most visited places in Germany is this particular cathedral in Cologne. I am saying that completely wrong, most likely Germany. It was built from 1248 to 1880, so that's a really long time for something to be built, right? So this building was under construction for hundreds and hundreds of years, slowly but surely. And as of, more recently, right, it has up to 20,000 people who visit it every single day. We see that complicated architecture and all the little tiny details of older buildings and the giant glass windows, the stained glass. It's really pretty, honestly. I think that'd be a fun place to see. Just this wonder, how did people manage to build something so crazy pretty, right? Another famous place here in Germany is Neuschwanstein Castle. Neuschwanstein. E's oi sound. Neuschwanstein Castle. Look at me. We're learning to pronounce things together. The palace was built by King Ludwig II of Bavaria and was open to visitors after the king died in 1886. It's not too long ago. Over 61 million people have visited it since, I assume, his death. And the palace was an inspiration for Disneyland's Sleeping Beauty castle. So, right, they used this castle to base that movie and story on. So, hey. Germany actually has a lot of castles. You'd be surprised by the amount of how many castles really are in Germany. But this is the most famous one. Over 200 rooms were planned to be built, but only 15 were ever finished. Many rooms are still bare brick on the inside today. That's pretty crazy. I guess the king lived in one of those 15 finished rooms. Now, coming back to the capital city of Berlin in Germany here, right? And talking about the Berlin Wall, which was that first point in the video from our previous lesson. So, obviously, Germany was defeated in the Second World War, right? Which happened from 1939 to 1945. Not that far back when you really think about it, right? After the war ended, right? They divided Germany into two different countries. So we had East Germany and then we had West Germany. And so the Berlin Wall is what separated these two sides. And it was a big deal, right? Because it separated families, it separated, it became such different cultures in such a short amount of time. Simply because of a wall they arbitrarily decided to split the country with, right? People were not allowed to cross the wall at all, right? There were lots of stories of people trying to escape to the other side, back and forth, right? And people died trying to escape. It wasn't until even 1989 that Germans were happy when the wall was taken down and people could visit the other side. 1989, right? I was born in 91. So Germany just barely reunited 2 years before I was born. Germany hasn't been whole for more than, right, we're 20 years, right, 2020, plus the extra 10, so 31 years, right? Germany has been whole for as long as an adult, pretty much near my age, or some of your other younger teachers. That's fascinating and kind of crazy. Now Germany, right, is one country again. So we can still see parts of the Berlin Wall today, right? Germans on the wall before it was torn down in 1989, right? Because there's a lot of protests and a lot of, people trying to take it down. And that's how we got to that Gigi dude from the video from last lesson, right? People who had been tearing down chunks of the wall and all of the artwork on the wall. And now what's left of the wall, right, that's still left up is now that kind of art gallery of people making their statements to the government about what they thought about the wall, and now they keep it up as part of their history. A little fun, interesting note here. What are some things that were invented in Germany? Well, one of them being the Volkswagen buses and the Volkswagen Beetle cars. You might remember, kind of older for you guys now, but we had our own rendition of the Volkswagen Beetle. Kind of, if you ever do the game where you hit each other when you see certain cards, like Slug Bug, boop. I don't know if that's just like something from my age or you guys actually do that too, but very iconic cars. Both came from Germany. Not the only thing, obviously, that Germany invented. They also came up with Christmas trees. Weird, right? But true. Germans were the first people to decorate their homes and churches with Christmas trees during Christmas time. They have been using them for over 500 years. So I'm not saying they invented Christmas, right? Not saying that. Just the Christmas tree itself, right? Decorating the tree as part of what they use to decorate, I guess. I don't know. Besides that, hopefully you still remember this one from earlier on. Kindergarten, right? Because we learned kindergarten was a German word, right? It was cognate, we've learned. And so if we actually break down the word kindergarten, it means children's garden. So they created it with the intention of helping children to transition from being at home to starting elementary school, right? The very first time they ever leave the house for like a full day, right? On the first day of kindergarten, German parents give their children a Schultüte. Schultüte. I'm gonna guess. Again, not fluent by any means in German here. It is a big paper cone full of treats and school supplies. I mean, I think most parents at least do the school supply part, but we just normally put it in our backpacks. I think that'd be kind of fun if kids all brought that into kindergarten the first day. And so you have to sort between all the treats and the school supplies. And I wonder how many of the treats they let them eat right at the beginning, because that'd be a very hyperactive class of kids on their first day. And it also kind of reminds me of like around Christmas time when they have those little carrot looking treat bags. Usually they're filled with nuts or something, right? These little carrot bags or something, and it has like all the nuts inside or something. Like that's usually something I see during Christmas. I don't know. Maybe some of you recognize that too as something you see regularly. Another fun thing to learn is Grimm's fairy tales. So how many of you have heard of Grimm's fairy tales? These were like the first versions of a lot of the Disney movies you've probably watched, right? And they had a lot darker undertones, a lot darker endings. And then Disney, along with other people, right, kind of made them more children-friendly and changed them to have happy endings, whereas they didn't originally have that. So it was these two brothers, the Grimm brothers, Jacob and Wilhelm. Wilhelm? Yes, Jacob and Wilhelm. And they were, again, brothers who collected and wrote some of these famous folk tales. And honestly, yes, most famous folk tales ever written, right? We still have these tales today. Cinderella, Hansel and Gretel, Rapunzel, Rumpelstiltskin, Snow White, right? You probably all have seen the vast majority of that as a Disney film. And their first collection of folk tales was published in 1812. We do have a picture of the Grimm brothers themselves right there in the top right. And then you have a picture of Cinderella here in the bottom right. I wonder how many of you know how Cinderella actually ended in the original Grimm fairy tale. But to not ruin anyone's happy image of Cinderella, I will leave that to the curious if they want to look that up on their own. Who are some artists and musicians from Germany? So we have Hans Holbein the Younger? At least I know how to say Hans. Thank you, Frozen. Was a German painter that lived from 1497 to 1543, and he painted portraits of kings and queens in England, right? Because Germany, right, still part of Europe. England is a part of Europe. So he got to travel around and, again, paint some of the most important and famous people of England. So we see like King Henry the 6th, 7th, 8th, 8th there. Had to count my Roman numerals. And some other various king and queen there who don't have a title underneath them, I see. Besides that, we have this dude here, Albrecht Dürer, was an artist that lived from 1471 to 1528, and he painted and made prints from blocks of wood that he carved. So those are some very detailed animal pictures for something that you carve like literally out of wood, right? It's not just painting or coloring or sketching, right? He's carving and getting that kind of detail out of a wood block. That's crazy. We have a famous signature. So same dude, right? Albrecht Dürer always signed his work with a special A and D signature of his initials. Can you find it in his artwork? Oh, I think I might have found it. Were you looking? Did you see it? I want to point it out. Right down here, this little block. You see the complicated A, and then right inside it, that D. Right? I'm pretty sure that's where his signature is. So he likes to hide his signature in his work. That is still a crazy good piece of artwork, man. Some famous composers here of German musicians here. Some of the best musical composers in history, right, are from Germany. Click on their names to hear their music. So I actually have YouTube links here. And I won't play the full things, but if you're curious, you can always look it up on your own. But Beethoven, right? If you've had band or orchestra, you've probably heard Beethoven, with his full name being Ludwig von Beethoven. And then we have Bach, another very, very famous one if you're in a music class, Johann Sebastian Bach. Let's take a little listen, shall we? For Elise. Of his most famous works. Let's take a tiny listen here into one of Bach's famous works here. He whose joy of man desire. Interesting. I think I've heard that in a church setting at some point. But if you're interested in that, you of course can YouTube that yourself. We're not going to bother you too much with that here in the recorded version. And then we get to our quiz time. So these quiz questions are directly linked to the exit ticket in our agenda right after this. So if you actively pay attention to this last bit here of our video, you will be well set up to get all of the correct answers in the exit ticket. So, quiz time. What are Jacob and Wilhelm Grimm famous for? A, writing fairy tales, B, inventing Christmas trees, or C, painting pictures of kings and queens? Hopefully remember. It is A, writing fairy tales, the Grimm fairy tales. The second question is, what separated West Germany and East Germany for many years? Was it the fancy castle? Was it Berlin Wall? Or was it C, Volkswagen? Counting down, and it is B, the Berlin Wall. Which food is not from Germany? We have A, sauerkraut, A, sausage. I'm getting ahead of myself. B, being sauerkraut. C, a pretzel. And D, German chocolate cake. Hopefully remember. Pause if you need. And the answer is German chocolate cake, right? It was named after the dude because his last name was German, not because it came from Germany. And our last question. When children go to kindergarten in Germany, what do their parents give them? Is it A, Christmas presents, B, a cone filled with school supplies and treats, or C, a bag of pretzels? Dun, 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 dun. Pause if you need to make your guess, and here we are. The answer is B, a cone filled with school supplies and treats. And that concludes our PowerPoint and for our intro to Germany. So, with that being said, please go and finish your exit ticket to finish today's lesson if you have not already. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Goodbye, children.